My name's Akashni. I prefer Akashni, but if it's societal norm to shorten it, then Kash is fine. My mum died when I was 11. Breast cancer. Apparently, I was too young to go to a funeral. Dad and sisters raised me. I acted up. I must have added to their heartache, and I regret that now. I developed an interest in business and economics. I did a double degree at the uni, and that's where I met Chrissy. We did the whole share house thing. Many girls came and left, but Chrissy and I stuck together. I studied hard and partied hard too at times. I threw in a master's for good measure, and that's where I met Paul. He was back at the uni to upgrade his qualifications. He was working in the telecommunications, he was already a business manager. He was so smart and so funny. I must admit, I was smitten from the start. It was a long time before we went on our first date. It was a long, slow burn. For our first date, Paul took me to this really romantic restaurant called the Purple Velvet. It was dimly lit, and the only light coming out was from the low dark tables from the candles. Each table was designed to seat only two. Beautiful black satin sheets divided the diners, and the food was amazing. I had the deconstructed lemon tart. It was divine, best I'd ever tasted. We talked for hours. By the end of the night, Paul and I knew everything about each other, about our family, about our career aspirations, about our dreams. He was an only child. His parents lived in Australia. What hooked me was the way he looked at me. He seemed captivated by everything I said or did or had done. He wanted to know it all. He made me feel so special, important. There was a bit of a whirlwind after that. He met my family. They loved him. Even Dad approved. And towards the end of our studies, Paul proposed. I said yes, obviously. I cried. Then Paul cried. It was all blubberingly beautiful and so romantic. It's only now looking back, I realize it was all too fast. But I was caught up in the moment. I was living life. I was in love. That's how it goes sometimes, doesn't it? Or maybe it doesn't. Or at least it shouldn't. More whirlwind. He got another promotion and decided on a house. Our wedding day was magnificent. He looked so handsome. His parents flew down for it. And my dad walked me down the aisle. I danced with him. He gave a heartwarming speech later saying that Mum would have been proud of me. With a tear in his eye, he gave a kiss on my cheek. Paul and I flew down to the Maldives for our honeymoon. He had booked a double deluxe villa in a sunset pool. It was amazing. The first couple of days were bliss. Everything was wonderful. We did diving, we went for a luxury cruise, we saw rays and reef sharks, and the food was amazing. There was this one restaurant called Tava something, and we had teppanyaki there on our second night. It was to die for. The next day, we decided on a stroll on the beach. I got into my swimmers, and Paul told me I shouldn't wear that. I thought he'd make a sexy comment and we'll end up back in bed. So I smiled coyly and I asked him, why? He said I looked like a pig, like I turned into what I'd wolfed down for dinner the night before. It was like a slap in my face. When I didn't say anything for a few seconds, he told me to get changed, throw my bathers out, and that he had been embarrassed once and he wouldn't be embarrassed again. That was the moment. I know that now. I should have walked out that door and never turned back. I often wonder how my life would have turned out if I had. But instead, foolishly, I got changed. On our last night, I saw lemon tart on the menu. I thought I caught a glint of disapproval in his eye when I ordered it. But I dismissed it. We got back to our room and he closed the door behind us. He said Kashi so softly I almost didn't hear it. I turned smiling and he spat my face. He pushed me against the wall and said I didn't need or deserve dessert ever. Things got worse when we got back home. First, there was no need for me to take up a job because he was earning enough. Chrissy posted on Facebook that she had got a great job. Then he sold the second car so that I wouldn't be able to leave the house without him. He ordered me not to speak to Chrissy ever again. When I asked him why, he slapped me. He took away my mobile and closed down all my social media accounts. Then, not long after, one of my sisters had another kid. I wanted kids. When I spoke to Paul about it, he said I didn't need another reason to be fat. When I asked him if he would ever change his mind, he punched me in the stomach. I had thought that kids would bring back Paul to the man he was when I first met him. And I withdrew. I was lost. Then Dad died. Peacefully in his sleep, I hung up the home phone and I slid down the wall. That's how Paul found me hours later when he got back home, balled up and crying on the floor. You know what he did? He didn't even look up at me. He just asked me to go get him a beer. When I didn't get up immediately, he yelled at me to do it. Numb and trembling, I got up. I took the beer and went to the lounge room where he was already seated. Holding it, standing next to the chair he was sitting on, I told him my dad had died. He was watching the news. He didn't even look up at me. He just said, "You aren't going to the funeral." I don't remember what happened next. I know what the police told me happened next. I saw the photos. I heard all about it at the trial. Guess I have a long time now to remember. But at least the judge let me go to my dad's funeral.